What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. So in the last video we talked about how I had to do some tunnel modifications to my Nova for the LS3 6L80 combo, and that caused me to modify the tunnel, which in turn did not allow me to put the bent seat, which in turn made me buy the Pro Car seats to replace the bent seats. I showed you the seats, the brackets, and the seatbelt guide to solve the problem where the seatbelt rides on the neck. That was the big problem for me, and I got rid of that. So happy I can share that with you guys, and hope you found that information useful. So now, when I did this video, I had to basically take apart my car. Took out the seats in order for me to, you know, kind of show you guys the interior and make this informational video on everything I did to the interior for the LS Rebirth. Now, as you may have guessed, I did this video all in one take, basically all in one day. And so the video was shot in sections, and that video was long. I mean, part one was pretty long, and I couldn't fit it all in one video because it would have been like an hour long. So this video is part two for what I did to the interior to give this car an LS Rebirth. So let's start off with the seatbelt, because that is the most obvious that I changed. Now you can see that my seats are still the original red and black with the stripe as featured in episode 135 on 74 Nova updates. So I kept that aspect of the red in the car. And so since the seats were all black and I still have that red stripe, I wanted to bring a little bit more red in the front. And one idea was to get the stripe put back on the seat, and the other idea was getting it into the seatbelt, and I chose the seatbelt. Now these seatbelts are the factory seatbelts. The only thing that was changed was the webbing, and the company I used for the webbing was Safety Restore. And when I was contacting them, I wanted them to give me some samples so that I can kind of compare and make a decision, you know, have some opinions from some of my friends and family, and actually, you know, see it for myself. And at first I thought about going with all red, but then I thought, you know what, all red would be just too much, and so I didn't go that route. You can see there's two types of red. There's the elegant red, and then there's a Ferrari red. And the reason why I wanted to see the Ferrari red, because I thought, well, maybe it'll match more the car. And then here's the elegant red. The elegant red kind of matches more with the car. But again, I thought, man, that's just too much red. And then I saw this one. And this one is obviously the one that I chose. It gives that subtle black and red stripe feel, which is what I have here, black with a red stripe, and, you know, black with a red, you know, red stripe there, black with a red stripe, and it just really sets this seatbelt apart. And again, this is the factory seatbelt. So what I did was I just basically unbolted them and sent in the mechanism there and the mechanism here, because if you know from these old cars, you have two retractors. I don't know why they did that back then, but basically it has two locking retractors. The one here, you can see it locks when you stop moving it, and then it has the retractor up here, which is the one that stops the seatbelt from moving when you know, suddenly brake the car, you know, hit the brakes. But this looks great, and so that was my ultimate decision. So I only did the fronts, so basically these, and then these right here, which are just the other half of the front seat belts. And the backs I didn't touch because they still look great. These are from 1974 and they still look great, obviously, because no sun actually hits them. They're hidden away in there. And so again, see, 1974, and these still look great. So I left the back seatbelts alone. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to touch on is the steering wheel. If you remember, episode 135 featured this steering wheel, which was red and black, and it went with the theme of the red and black. But for this new update, as far as the interior, I decided to go with all black because I've already brought the red and black into the car with the seatbelt, and I didn't want to change the seat itself because the seat is already all black. So I decided, you know what, just the red and black. Even though I really like this steering wheel, I decided, let me try the all black look. And I like it. I still would have preferred red and black, but the problem with the red and black one, that's, you know, and I'll explain why I chose the D instead of the all round. But the D-shaped steering wheel, they did have a red and black one that matched this one from Grant. But the red was like a, you know, the vinyl, and the black was like what is it, that suede, and I don't like suede. I just don't like suede for a steering wheel, so I went with this one, which is more of a rubber type, and I like the rubber, and I like that it's, you know, nice and wide, thick. It gives me a good feeling when I grip it, so that's why I chose the all black. Now, why did I chose the D over the round? Now I'll put them together. You can see they're both the same. They're, you know, the size is exactly the same, but here is the difference right here. You can see that the D makes it a little bit more shallower, the steering wheel, and this extra space was for my legs. I wanted a little more leg room, and this is the reason why I chose the D. It did get a little getting used to driving with the D. You know, you can't just kind of, the feeling when you're doing the roll is a little different because, you know, of this here. So it did take a little getting used to, but I'm fine with it. I mean, it's like mostly you're driving straight. You don't do, you know, a lot of going left or right. So this is not a big deal, but I did want the extra leg room, and this is why I chose the D. Okay, the center console now. Now, with that tunnel, let's see if I can get this here. The tunnel that I installed was pretty large, and you can see how much tunnel is from the bottom of the floor up to where the center console is actually starting. So this tunnel is pretty large. So the height of the center console is in a good height. It's pretty high. You'll remember in some of the photos that this shift knob, I had the original Camaro shift knob, but now I've changed it to this one. Now this one, not a lot of shift knobs was available for the Camaro shifter, which is what I'm using. But I found this one, and I have to say this was expensive, but you know, it was well worth it. I really like it. At first I thought I'm gonna change the color from brushed aluminum to, you know, I was gonna paint it black and then have a red stripe, because you see there's like a black stripe here, and I was going to do that. And then of course this here, this is black, I was going to paint that red, so all this would be red and that stripe would be red and the rest would be black. But then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to leave it brushed aluminum. It looks good, and that's what I ended up doing. So the other thing I added to the center console was this WeatherTech. This is for my cell phone. It's great when I'm, you know, taking those long road trips and I'm using my Google Maps. I just put the cell phone there, and I don't have to worry about holding it or anything. And then I still have my cup holder, you know, so that works there. The center console has an electrical port here, as you can see there. This used to be the traction control for the Camaros, but I obviously I don't have the traction control in there. But I ended up using this button. I drilled it out, put on an extra button there, you see there, and that controls my air conditioning. So I can have the option of turning the air conditioning on or off, regardless of if I have the AC on the panel. So that's just a preference of mine, because sometimes I just want to, you know, put on the fan. And the way the Vintage Air is set up, when you turn on the AC and you put it on for cold, the AC automatically turns on and off. But I want sometimes to turn on the AC, but without the air conditioning compressor going on and off. You know, for those times I just want, you know, just a breeze in the car, but without it being cold, freezing cold air. So that's why I have that button there. So if I want to turn on the AC, I just, you know, turn it on. Much like the modern cars, you know, you have max AC. Well, let's just call that max AC. That's my max AC button. So the last thing is, you see the center console has like red stitching, and that's you can kind of see that there. If it would focus, let's see. Well, can't get it to focus. There you go, finally. So it has like red stitching, and that's because the center console came out of a Hot Wheels edition Camaro. And so when I first got this set up, I thought, well, you know what, I was going to maybe reupholster my seat and do the red stitching, and then of course add the red stripe. But I decided to leave the seats all black, and well, I'll just keep the red stripes on here because I still have red in the car. I mean, the seat belts, you know, the back stripe on the door. So this kind of works out. I wish it was more red, but it's fine. And then in here, my storage compartment, another 12-volt port. So that comes really handy. So I have 2 of them here. You know, I actually have 3, but I'll show it in a later video. I changed the, you know, that right there, I changed it to control my heating and cooling. So I'll get into that later on in a future video. And then of course I got my wideband there. But anyway, that'll be in a future video, so stay tuned for that. You know, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and don't forget that notification bell. But anyway, this this block here it's original to the Camaro. Let me take some of this stuff out of here so you kind of see. My overheat tube. Okay, so this here is a headphone jack, and I took this out. This is original to Camaro. I took this out, I gutted it up, and I added in my own USB port and my own headphone jack, and I wired it up to my stereo. So there's my stereo. So now when I want to listen to music, let's say I have my cell phone in the WeatherTech thing and I'm listening to Pandora. Well, all I have to do is just get my headphone jack right here and plug it into my cell phone, and the music will come out of my speakers because it's connected to my stereo. So that was a cool little thing that I did. Cool little touch that I added of customization to my center console. So that works out beautifully. And then the USB is also connected to my stereo. So let's say I have a USB drive with music on it, with MP3s. I could just basically plug the USB drive in there, and my stereo will play the music from the MP3 drive. So, you know, like a flash drive or whatever. So that is just something I added. And then of course you can see my my handle there. Let me get in the car and show you. Okay. So there's the handle. Let's see if I can kind of get it like this. And then so that's my e-brake. So got my e-brake on there. That was a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie. That, you know, to get that was, you know, to be positioned just right and to control my e-brakes, get new wires, you know, new cables and the routing and everything, which the routing goes under the you know, the tunnel, and you know, it goes along here all the way to the back wheels, goes around the differential, and into each brake caliper. And I'll get into that in future videos. I also had to change the braking system for the rear because I went with a torque arm suspension. So I'll give you a little peek. Let's see if I can give you a little peek of the torque arm suspension. Well, it's kind of hard to see, but you kind of see, you know, kind of peek there. So I have a torque arm suspension. So I had to change the brakes to get that to work. But all that be featured in future videos. So I did do a lot of modifications to this car. It wasn't just the LS3 6L80 swap. But yeah, so there's the center console. And for those that want to know how high my center console is in relation to that armrest, because someone has mentioned that on my Instagram page. So, you know, if you want to communicate with me, there's a link in the description box for my Instagram. But I do get people that ask me questions and stuff on Instagram. But there was one person that was stating that the center console was too low. Of course, you know, you can't really see how high the center console is from pictures, but you can see now how high it is, and it's pretty high. So now, how high is the center console? So you can see now that the center console is roughly about an inch lower than the armrest. So now, do you want to see measurements? Okay, let's get some measurements. I got a measuring tape here. I'm gonna see if I can get you to see the actual measurements. All right, so I'm gonna put the tape here, and we got here, so roughly 13, almost 14 inches. 13 and 3/4, let's say. So that's as far down as I can get the tape on that side. 13 and 3/4 inches, just about 14. So that's one side, okay? So now let's go for the center console and do the same thing. Stick my tape down in there as far down as I can get it. Okay, far down as I can get it. And you can see that there, that is just a tad above 13 inches. You see, just a tad. So 1 inch, roughly about 1 inch of difference between the center console height and the armrest height. But there you go, there's the center console. And the last thing, the carpet, well, that was easy. I just basically cut the carpet in half because it is a two-piece carpet. Let's get this light here. You know, the carpeting from these Novas are two pieces. And so this part of the carpet, which is the front half, I just basically cut it down the center. And so I got one piece here, and the bolts for the bracket here, and of course the high beam thing, switch. That's what's holding the carpet in its place. It's not going anywhere. And then of course the center console actually holds the carpet on that side. So you don't have to buy a new carpet. You can reuse your original carpet, and you just cut it in half and then just trim it to go around the center console. So that's pretty much the setup. It worked out great. Center console looks great. It's very, very functional for when I drive, especially on my long road trips. I'm happy. I'm very happy with it. Well, there you have it. The interior done, made over, center console, the seats, the steering wheel. I mean, the one thing I didn't show was the headliner. I did take care of that as well, because the headliner that I had installed, I put that headliner in, and over the years it did actually start to sag. And so when I was redoing the car interior for this LS3 6L80 project, and I had done the interior, the headliner had to be redone. So I did take the headliner out, took it to an upholstery shop, and had a new headliner put in. So that's the one thing I didn't feel I had to go into in the video. I mean, it's self-explanatory. You take the headliner out, take it to someplace, they do it, you put it back in the car. So got a new headline as well. So basically, you know, everything that was bad or needed modification was addressed when I took care of the interior. So now that the interior is all done, you know, the shifter is in place, there's still other things that need to be addressed before this car can get its first startup. And we're going to share that with you in future videos. So, as always, hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. See you on the next one.